Hey you guys, happy Tuesday. It has been a little while since I have been on Facebook Live. I feel like I'm doing this again for the first time. But here we are. I'm excited to be here. Happy October. I think the last time I was on a live video, it was September. So happy October. This is my favorite month of the entire year. Not only because, hi Jen, it is my birthday month, it's also Pitbull Awareness Month, which is my favorite bunch of dogs in the entire world. And it's also the month where you really start to notice the seasons are changing. And when the seasons change, I get this whole new burst of energy, which then translates into my business. So I wanted to come on and talk to you today about how I created all of my content for October yesterday. So I sat down yesterday. I'm going to walk you through this process, but I created all of my content for social media, which will then translate into blog posts for the entire month, and that will be content I can share also on Pinterest. So I am expanding the platforms that I use for my business right now. I focus on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm starting to use YouTube and Pinterest and really broadening my audience. And so when I looked at this decision and I decided that I needed a little bit more time in my life, I really had to dial it back down to the basics and also take a look at how I was spending my time in my business. So I decided to batch some of my content this month, and this is something I've done in the past. It is super, super helpful. Do you need more water, Bubba? Let me get the baby some more water. If you're hopping on, say hello. I'll be just 1 second. All right, Bubba's. Where'd the straw go? Can you find the straw? There it is. There you go. Okay, we are back. So I sat down yesterday and I created all of the content for my social media. And the reason that this is really important, and if you're an entrepreneur, you know this, the reason it's important is because in order to grow your business, you have to be visible and you have to be providing value to your audience. So I didn't just sit down yesterday and write any old thing, right? I didn't just sit down and write about the birds and the coffee I was drinking, although I plugged that into some of my content. But I really made sure when I was creating this content that it was valuable for the audience and for those of you that follow me and are looking to me for business tips and resources to grow your business too. So the way that I do this might be a little bit differently than other entrepreneurs, and I really encourage you to kind of find your own groove and find your own style with this. This is also something that I do for my virtual assistant clients. So I not only do this for my business, but I do this for other entrepreneurs. So I'm really, really well practiced at it. It's something that comes easily to me now. And if you're just starting out, I can't see who's hopping on. Hi, Nadine. If you're just starting out with batching your content, please don't feel frustrated that it doesn't come easily to you. Because at first it's gonna feel a little clunky, it might feel a little forced, but as you practice this, just like anything else, it becomes easier. It becomes like a muscle that you use and you build up. And so this is going to help your business so much once you get the hang of it. So what I do when I create my content is I sit down and I always make sure that I'm doing this from a space that feels really good, right? So in the beginning, it might feel a little awkward, might feel a little weird. I would like for you to think about the time that maybe you first started journaling. Those of you that practice journaling, which I do almost every morning now. And honestly, in the beginning of doing this practice, I was like, really weirded out by it, right? It felt funny to sit down and just to write and to pour my thoughts out onto paper. And so essentially this is the same thing that you're doing with your content, except you're doing it a little more strategically. So think about it that way, where you've done something for the first time and it feels a little weird, it feels a little awkward, and then it starts to become easier. And as it becomes easier, you also start to craft your skill with it a lot more. So when I am sitting down to do this, I make sure I'm in a good space, right? I make sure that my energy is high. Now yesterday when I posted about this, I shared that I was like fueled with energy. I felt really good. I had so many thoughts and ideas flowing through me. I was like typing and typing and typing, and I didn't have to think much about it. Now, this isn't always the case, and there's definitely some days in my business where I don't want to write anything, right? I don't want to share any content. I don't want to get on camera. I don't want to do any of my business content creation. And so on those days, I allow myself to sit back and not do it. And that's why this is so extremely helpful, because on the days that I want to just take off from my business and unplug, I can do that, and I still have my content going out so that I remain visible, I remain in front of my audience, and I'm really growing that connection. So I'm gonna take a sip of coffee, even though that's not gonna help my throat, but I have like a tickle in my throat. So let me know in the comments if you batch your content right now, or if you're looking for tips with this. Let me know what you need help with. I just love when the coffee is like perfect. It's not too weak, it's not too strong. That's today and yesterday. I'm like on point with my coffee measurements lately. Hi, baby. Okay, so we're gonna dig right into how to actually go about this, because it's one thing to say that you're gonna batch your content. It's another thing to actually sit down and do it in a way that's effective. Jen says, I'd love some tips. I've used the free Later for Insta and Facebook. Yes, that is a tool that I use too, and I'm gonna dig into that a little bit. What are you doing? You guys can't see him. Hi, little human. Okay, so when I sit down to batch my content, the first thing I do is make sure that my energy is in the right place. I make sure that I'm feeling really good. Let me give you something that you can play with, okay? And the reason that I do this, the reason that that is important, is because when you are creating your content, when you're sharing it on social media, people are going to feel your energy, right? Everything in the universe has energy, and you will notice, and you can start to pay attention to this in other people's businesses too. When you're scrolling the newsfeed, you will notice when something doesn't feel right? Maybe you scroll across somebody's post and it has a lot of emojis and it's really happy, but you just have that kind of icky feeling about it. It doesn't feel authentic, or it doesn't feel really exciting, right? And maybe it looks exciting, but it just doesn't feel that way. And you can relate this to like going to a party and you are around somebody and their energy is just kind of weird, right? How many of you have experienced that? So it's the same thing with your social media content when you are typing it out and when you are sharing it. So when you're doing your batching, you want to make sure that you are in a high vibe space. However you have to do this, do it whatever works for you. Sometimes I like to go out in nature beforehand. I go for a walk. Wanna come see me? I don't want you ripping my shirt off though. Sometimes I'll go in nature, sometimes I'll listen to music. I journal very frequently before I create my content, so do whatever, no thank you. Do whatever is going to work for you to get yourself in that high vibe state. Now the next thing that I do, and this is kind of dependent on how far in advance, yeah, I thought so. No thanks. Let me find something for you to do. I'm looking around the kitchen to see if there's something that will keep him entertained. Let me know if you have children at home and you can understand what's happening here. If not, I apologize. Let me find something for the toddler. What can we find that's right here? Huh. What's this? We found a fire truck, you guys.
Count on us to come to the rescue.
Yeah? Good. Awesome. I'm gonna finish this video. Okay, so the next thing I do, depending on how far in advance I am batching my content, I'll grab my calendar. And I like to personally do this with a physical paper calendar because I just like to like jot notes out and things like that. So I take out my planner, and I have it right here, I'll show you guys. Which I don't use very frequently, but for this purpose I use it. And I open it up to, oh, Connor wrote in here, to the monthly view. Hi, Janya. And when I do this, I look at any big events that I have going on for the month. So I'm just going to use 1 month in advance to give you an example. Sometimes I'll create content ahead of time for 2 or 3 months, depending on what that quarter looks like and what is going on. But so I take this physical calendar, and you can use your digital too, and I look at any big events that are going on. I don't have anything written in here, so that shows you how much I have going on right now. But any launches, if I had a program launching, if I had an in-person event, if I was doing a workshop, whatever those pieces are in my business, I would be paying attention to those dates. The reason that you want to do that ahead of time is because when you're creating your content, you want to make sure that it's speaking to your audience in the way you want it to, right? So if you're promoting something during the last month of October, let's say for example, and you're not sharing any type of promotion before then, nobody's going to know about it, right? So you want to be paying attention to those. Yes, thank you. The doggy ate a toy. It's a piece of plastic that Connor found. That naughty dog. Good job, Bubba. Can you throw it away? Go put it in the trash. So I pay attention to the big events that are happening and I reverse engineer my content based on that. So let's just say, for example, at the end of October, I had a program that was launching. In the beginning of October, I would be leading up to this event with a ton of value for my audience, right? That's kind of the way that online business works. You nurture your relationships, you build those connections, and then you land your sales and you give your promotions. So for this week, right, because we're like halfway through October now, I would be sharing value, maybe doing a free training, a free challenge, whatever it might be. And then the following week, doing the same thing. And then at the end of that week, right before, I would start to do the promotional posts. So anytime batching content for my business or for a client's business, I always pay attention to that first. It's a really important piece because you want to be able to not only make sure that you're promoting things when you should be, but you also want to be sprinkling in the different types of content that you should be sharing. So for example, a few types of content that I tend to write about and share about, not only promotion, but stories, right? Stories, personal experiences, things that are going to make me relatable. I like to share content that is packing a punch, right? Something that is getting people to think. I often post controversial posts about something relating to business that maybe not everybody will agree upon. I also like to post a lot of lifestyle posts, right? You guys see my child all of the time, you see my dogs. And so when I'm scheduling out my content ahead of time, I make sure that I'm sprinkling in these little bits and pieces so that they are cohesive and so that there's not too much of one thing. You wanna come back up? Can you put the heater vent back in the floor? You guys. Oh my gosh, this is life with a boy, I guess. So when you are creating your content ahead of time, pay attention to not only your emotions and how you're feeling when you're creating it, but also the types of content that you're sharing. So those are the two key pieces. Now, when I sit down and write my content, it's a really simple process as far as the tech stuff goes. I pull up a Google Doc, right? In my back end, I have Google Drive organized for my business. For each month, I have a folder that has pictures, that has a document with all of my copy for the month. And so I pull up that document. It says October 2018 copy on it, and I just go to town. So I'm gonna show you, oh, you want my bracelet? Here you go. I'm going to give you an example for this. So I pull up this document. I'm just going to walk you through all the tech pieces here. Of course, you can use whatever works for you, right? Maybe you're using Evernote, maybe you're using a file on your computer, whatever it is that works for you, do that. But this is what I do. So I pull up that Google Doc, and then what I look at is I go back in my Facebook and in my Instagram, and I look at the posts that have performed really well in the past. So I scroll back, sometimes I'll just go to my photos, right? If you go to your Facebook page and go to photos, you can hover over the little tiles and see how many likes and comments a post had. So I go back and I pay attention to those posts. The reason that I do that is because I want to know what topics my audience is really eating up, right? What is the most helpful? What is getting the most engagement? And I work off of that. So let's just say, for example, I made a post about branding tips, right? I am a designer. I am a business and brand coach. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. And so one of the things that I talk about very frequently is branding and your visual branding. So let's just say I made a post about that. I have a blog post that I can think of right now that was really popular that were my top 10 branding tips. When I posted that, that had over 30 comments on it. It had a bunch of likes, it had a few shares, and it got a ton of engagement. So when I'm creating my content looking forward, I want to be talking about the same types of things that were in that post, and I also want to be using the language of the people that were commenting on it. So this is a really big piece. You want to be paying attention to how your audience is speaking, because that's going to be the thing when you're writing your copy that grabs their attention, right? If you're using a word that they don't understand or they don't use in their regular vocabulary, they're gonna scroll right past it. So that's just kind of a copy tip, but that's how I go about creating my content moving forward. I look at the topic, and then what I do is I tend to give myself, if you guys can think back, I know this is probably like really far back for some of us, but if you think back to like 4th or 5th grade in elementary school, when they were teaching you how to write a story, right? And they were teaching you the format of writing a story. Hi, Leah. Hi, Lee. This is great. Thank you. Yes, you're welcome. I'm glad this is helpful. Please share it out if you're finding this helpful, you guys, because I think this will help a lot of entrepreneurs not only save time, but really be creating content that is effective, right? Because you want to be putting stuff out there that's not just like sugar-coated bullshit. You want it to be helpful for your audience. So what I do is I think back to elementary school when they would give you a random prompt that you had to write on, right? Can you guys remember? Put a like or give me a heart below if you remember doing this. So they would give you a prompt like, I'm trying to think of one. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? How many times did you get that question? And so with that prompt, you had to then write out 3, 4, 5, however many paragraphs about that topic. I do the same thing with my business, right? I think about the top 10 branding tips. I think about visual branding. I think about organic marketing, all of these pieces that my audience likes to eat up, right? You guys were going on this video right now. This is something that is helping you. So that's why I'm creating it. So I give myself a prompt of sorts that has to do with whatever topic is hot in my market, in my audience, and in my industry. And I write off of that. Now, the important thing to remember in your business, and this is something I had to like learn the hard way, is that, can you pick that up? Is that you're going to repeat yourself so many times, right? You're going to talk about the same things over and over and over again. Here, baby. You turn it on? Try and keep him busy. He like is moments away from a nap, but I really want to get this stuff out to you guys. So think about the pieces that are really helpful for your audience and write off of those topics. Now, the important thing to remember, and I'm like repeating myself here as I'm getting distracted, but when you are repeating yourself on the same topic, right? You're teaching about the same thing. Let's just say that you're a health coach, for example, and you teach people about health and nutrition. The information that you're sharing is always going to be the same, right? It's not going to be a brand new concept. But what's different every time you're saying hi, every time you're creating content is that you're always going to come up with a new way of sharing that content. So I talk about a lot of the same things over and over again, but when I prompt myself on these topics, something new comes up every single time, right? A new experience that I had, a new lesson that I learned, whatever it is. So it's important to remember that doing this exercise over and over again is really important because it's going to create that recognition and that trust that you are the expert in whatever it is that you're sharing. So don't feel like you have to come up with something brand new every single time when you're doing this exercise. So once I have my Google Doc filled out, right? Yesterday I wrote over 5 pages in my document. Do you want to play with this? You're not having milk right now. This? Bracelet? No. Okay, so after I have my document and I have all of this copy, I then go into my folder with my photos in it, right? I have professional photo shoots that I've had taken. I also tend to take the pictures that are really high quality that I use and recycle them every couple of months, right? So I have some pictures of myself or of Connor, as long as they're still relevant, right? You don't want to use something from like 10 years ago, but if they are very similar to my lifestyle now, if they have, can you get it? No? Okay, it's gonna stay on the floor. If they have something to do with what I'm talking about, then I use those photos. So then I pull those photos from that folder and I upload them into the free program called Later.com, and Jen mentioned this. This is my favorite scheduler that I've used so far. I've used a lot of them because you can use it for Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, right? Amazing. So yes, buddy, I know. We're almost done. We're almost done. So I pull Later up and I upload my photos. I then go into the notes of all of those photos and I add in the copy from my document that is relevant, that I want to be paired with. And then I add in my hashtags into that caption and I drag and drop them into my scheduler, right? This is pretty easy stuff. So whether you're doing this yourself or you're having a virtual assistant do it for you, this is going to save you so much time, so much energy and effort, because you're going to share on various platforms, right? You can choose different times of days for each platform. You can mix it up as much as you want, right? To keep things fresh and to keep things exciting. What do you see? Oh, there's a cat on the TV. You're right. And when you are done doing this, you're going to have as much content planned ahead of time that you want to create, right? You could do this for 1 month, you could do this for a week, you could do it for 5 months, right? However much you feel like sitting down and writing at one time, and looking ahead in your business and projecting what topics you're going to talk about. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to wrap it up because my shirt's about to get ripped off. But I would love for you to post any questions you have in the comments. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was, and please share this out so that you can help your fellow entrepreneurs too. And we will talk to you guys super soon. Can you say bye? Yeah, we're gonna have milk and take a nap. Okay, bye guys.